Mike, it's you and I today. How are you?
Happy to be here. Alex and Dan, their services are no longer needed. It was a pleasure having them on, but I mean, I guess this is the thing now. So
Okay, first off, they're not gone. Daniel's in Calgary. In fact, he went to game two of Battle of Alberta, and
no,
Alex has his stuff going on. So it's me, and I thought, you know what? Who better to come on and talk about everything going on in the second round than good old Mike? His Rangers are in a must-win scenario today against the Carolina Hurricanes.
I mean, the
So
boys need to have somebody who's teammate to the second round.
that's
I was waiting for that.
You're not wrong. I mean, I was gonna try and have Will on along with you so we could get some Calgary perspective, but the man is busy. The man is busy. I'm sure he's enjoying
Calgary stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's buzzing right now. I'd like to know what that
It snowed in his city.
Did it? I mean, it's better than having a power outage here, which I had. So for anyone who doesn't know, Mike knows this. So let's see, you don't know all this. So I've had a very long week. So the other day, I accidentally headbutted my dog Tubson. And obviously Tubson is a tick boy because he's part American Bulldog. So that hurt.
What's his name? What's his real name?
Oh, I call him Fat Tubson because he's just a bit of a thick boy who loves eating food. We call him Fat Tubson. Then the next day, well, you know this part, I don't know what it was, but some sort of reaction where my eyes were swelling. I couldn't open them for like 20 minutes the other day. It
wasn't your eyes, it was your whole face.
It was mainly just the eyes is where I felt it. Then I lose power from 1:30 yesterday to 10:30. I only caught the empty net goal for the Colorado game. My phone had died at like 2 p.m., right? So I missed the Rust extension. I just go on Twitter and it's like, Husso's getting pulled for the empty attack. Oh, and there's a goal. I'm like, wait a minute. Husso. And I see Sam Girard's hurt. And then I'm like, wait a minute. And then I'm looking at the Miami game, like, what do you mean Jimmy Butler's here? What's happening? A lot was going on. But before we get to all that, Mike, because we have you on, we're going to start with the Rangers.
You don't have to. I mean, look at how much stuff we got here.
I mean, yeah, but you're the priority is the Rangers. That's why we have you on here. So the series is not off into a perfect start. I would describe game one as a game where the Rangers, the longer this series go, might sort of regret not grabbing that game. It wasn't Carolina's best, but in that third period, it just felt like the Rangers were getting no zone time. They were just hemmed in the entire time, and you could feel that goal coming.
Yeah, no, like, they had like no shot for like 10 minutes, 13 minutes, whatever it was. It was pathetic. I mean, it's really resemblant to what happened. It's almost like they're the same Rangers team that beat Carolina when they only beat Carolina once out of 4 times this year. And one time they did, I think, I'm not exaggerating, I think the shots were 60 to like 18. What happened was Chris Kreider just scored a single lone goal in like halfway through the first or like early in the second. And then in the entire, like, I'm not exaggerating, the entire third period was in their zone. And that is entirely reminiscent of what happened this game. Mm-hmm. This game that we're talking about happened towards the end of the regular season. It's probably like game 69 or 70 or something like that.
Nice.
And
yeah.
then, yeah, nice. And then just like that, like, it looked exactly the same. And that's not how you win playoff games. That's not how you win at all in the playoffs. I get gauging a new opponent because Carolina is a much different team from the Pittsburgh Penguins, but at least you had some zone time against the Pittsburgh Penguins. This was just like dismal.
I don't know how many better words you can use to describe it than that. Game two was sort of a very much, that was Carolina's game.
Oh, I stopped watching after the second.
That's not good. By the way, let's see, one thing about game one I wanted to, before we spend a lot of time in game two and previewing game three that's later today.
See the note.
That Capo Caco miss, that golden opportunity, I think that may haunt your dreams for a long time.
Yeah, I don't understand how you're missing that in the NHL. It's wide open, wide open. If Caco scores that they're up 2-0, the game's over basically. Or at least the momentum is just it's so shifted that I don't see Carolina making the comeback that they did.
It's, you know what, that kids line has been
amazing.
Good overall. Yeah.
Amazing. They've been the best line on the team. Panarin has sucked. He had his golden moment with his overtime goal. Thank God.
Yeah.
Kreider and Zibanejad, more so Zibanejad's doing a lot. Kreider was pretty hot in the first round, pretty cold some other times. Zibanejad. You know, you have your Adam Fox on the team, but you're also worried about what's happening with Ryan Lindgren, who's playing very visibly hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes they're playing 7D. Sometimes Justin Braun is doing things. You know, sometimes Keandre Miller has to be a forward. Like it's whack.
See, I was going to ask you going in, like looking at game 3, who has to step up, but I think you did a pretty good job of explaining it. You know, Zibanejad's a guy interesting because the first part of that Penguin series, I was kind of wondering. I saw a tweet from Jay Fresh. I think it was Lafreniere now has as many playoff goals as Zibanejad. Wait a minute. But then in the back half of that series, I think he had a hat-trick game in 6. But he was turning it on. Panarin was getting criticism anyway, or before that game 7, because it just looked like the puck wasn't going in. I think people were saying the fancy numbers were saying he was playing well. But when you're Panarin, I think he's the second highest paid player in the league. The man needs to score some goals. Same with 50
some goals. He needs to just do stuff in general. His only goal before that game 7 goal was that fluke on Matheson when he was behind the hash or behind the goal line and slid that puck to the slot and it ended up going through Matheson's skates. The first 2 goals that went off of Matheson's skates, all serious, tough series for Matheson.
Yeah. Don't remind me that did my bracket in.
Oh yes, I forgot. Penguins sweeping the Rangers. Yes.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's got to step it up, man. I mean, just basically the glue of this team has been, and Copp has looked good too. Copp is doing things. Vetrano, I thought would be a little more, despite the fact that, you know, Frankie, it's a little tough to gauge with Frankie V because the thing is he was brought in as a depth player. He is a middle to bottom 6 forward on any NHL team, but he's playing in the first line and it worked. The guy was actually potting some like pretty good amount of goals actually when he first got to New York, and now he's dried up. I mean, he scored 1 goal, but now it's almost looked like every time he's gotten the puck, he's just had no finish or just I don't really know. So, I mean, you know, the fourth line is the fourth line. They do their thing. It's really tough too because you see how many ex-Rangers are on the team and how many ex-Rangers are just thriving. Like, to put into perspective, you know, Tony's having his year, but Tony wasn't one of the other 4 players that were there for the last time the Rangers went on a playoff run against Ottawa, and they lost to Ottawa after beating Montreal in the first round. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, you didn't need to mention that.
I didn't have to mention that. Sorry. But you have Jesper Fast. Antti Raanta was the backup then. Who else was on? Brady Shea. And, of course, Brendan Smith. I think Brendan Smith is one of the most disrespected players of the NHL by the NHL, or at least by EA Sports NHL, because this man was playing top minutes last year because the Rangers had nobody better, and he was rated a 76 overall. And he's a pretty decent guy. Like, I'd give him at least a 77 or a 78. And then this year they're like, yeah, no, we're giving him a 74.
He's a nice guy. Tried hard. That's well, I mean, you know, it was the standard wasn't it Jack Johnson before him?
Yeah, and I could say he's a better defenseman than like Justin Hall.
Oh, okay. We're doing that, all right.
That's not even smoke, but Justin Hall's an 81 and Brendan Smith's a 74.
We haven't even been going for half an hour and we've already ripped Montreal and Toronto. I appreciate that, Mike.
I didn't rip Montreal once. I just reminded.
I mean, yeah, just a nice colorful reminder of Lundqvist turning back the clock. And if your name wasn't Radulov or Lehkonen, you weren't scoring. That was a tough one. That was a very tough one. The beginning of the end for Max Pacioretty as a Hab. If you look back at that series. Okay, Mike. Looking at game 3 later today, you obviously they say you're not in trouble until you lose at home. But obviously you lose game 3 and you fall down against a Carolina team that we know is desperate to get a deep run under their belt, and B is just you talk about grindy structured team. Who has to step up specifically? Who is the guy who's going to make a moment today for the Rangers in Game 3?
That's a tough one because I was thinking more of there's one specific unit that needs to do it, and it's the power play.
Mm-hmm.
Because the power play has had so many, and yes, I will say I'll give it to Panarin because Panarin, he needs to do something. He needs to do something, but also just in general, the power play has had so many chances and nothing has just gone through. Like I would say Ryan Strome because Ryan Strome has actually just been dreadful, but at least he's been defending well. Like he has made some costly turnovers, and he has not looked good. That he has taken some insanely stupid penalties, but it all comes down to also Kreider had a dreadful game too. It all comes down to Kreider and Panarin. I think Zibanejad battled, Fox did his thing. And it's leading to, Turk Gallant has had to change up some lines. For example, he flipped Alexis Lafreniere on the kid line at one point with he put him on the second line, flipped him with Andrew Kopp and to get Lafreniere on the top six. And it didn't look too bad. But also like Frank Vetrano on the first line was replaced by Capo Caco. And he was playing with Kreider and Zibanejad. So I guess I don't know. I don't know if like adjusting on the fly what that's going to do. But if there's one thing I've learned in the game of hockey is if something's not working, then you do whatever you do to fix it. You do whatever you do to change things, whether it's line changes, combinations, whatever. If you're putting a seventh defenseman on PP2 at one point because it's not working out, then do that. Like,
who's a defenseman who's available? The deadline, who's worked some power play time before that maybe the Rangers should have gotten. I
want to put a bet on every podcast because I want to put like the betting odds before you start every podcast, and I think it's like minus 105 that you mentioned Ben Sherratt.
I have to.
Yes.
Oh, again, a lot of the Habs are still in it. A lot of them are still in it. There's a good chance a former Montreal Canadian will win the Stanley Cup this year. That finals team just means more. So I got to mention Big. It was a complicated relationship with Ben Sherratt, but we have to mention him. But obviously, just having a laugh there. I mean, Adam Fox is good enough. Forget about any other. Just keep Adam Fox there. By the way, Jack Adams finalist Gerard Gallant. Do you think he wins it?
I don't want to be biased and say he does. But it's crazy because I have a dear friend from Vancouver who tried to hint at me that they need to get rid of him this summer. And I was like, okay, you are on drugs. I think I have it really tight between him and Gerard Gallant, or him and Daryl Sutter, because I mean, I think every Jack Adams finalist has a really good reason to win. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have Andy Burnett out of Florida, who's he had to inherit quite a situation. Mm-hmm. The only downside I think is that that team was clicking, and that team continued to click. Yeah, it was an early season kind of firing, but that team was going to be good regardless. I mean, also depending on Bobrovsky's success. So. But Gallant took a team that had no business making anything other than the wild card this year, outside of the fact that they had Shesterkin, a man named Igor. Here we are, and he's a coach that connected very well with the players in Vegas, and to my understanding, he looks like he's connecting very well. He just seems like an approachable guy, a coach that's very open to ideas and thinking, and he just connects very well with his players. So definitely think he deserves a finalist. And then obviously Sutter. First off, Sutter has the best press conferences in the league.
I was rewatching a video of his old ones in LA earlier today.
Funny. He's so funny. But he's taken a Calgary team that has had so many expectations because of the fact that, everyone thinks, oh, well, the window is going to close because Johnny Gaudreau is going to be a free agent this summer. Lindholm's getting up there in age. Monahan is useless. And he turned them into a really good team. Or he didn't turn them into a really good team, but
unlocked the
them
potential.
very far. Yes, that's the thing. There's been so much untapped potential in that Calgary roster, and now you see it in full bloom. So I'm saying it's between Sutter and Turk. We'll see.
Right. Fair enough. Neither were my coach of the year, but I'll take it.
Why? Because you wanted Jared Bednar?
Yes. Yeah.
I was pretty surprised he got snubbed, to tell you the truth. I was very surprised with the domination that they did this year, and this is a regular season award too.
Yeah,
I would have probably taken him over. Over Burnett, actually, probably, to tell you the truth, or over Sutter or Burnett, probably one of those two. That's Homer me being okay. Anyways, yes,
fair enough. Okay, so that can be what we do for the Rangers and that. They better win. I don't want to see the Canes win.
Me neither.
I'm not over Kotkaniemi. I don't want it. I'm not over it. 6.1. Bastard. Can't stand it. Okay. Oh, where are we going now? What series would you like to talk about next?
I think the next one we got here in the lineup is something pretty insane.
It's Battle of Alberta. You can tell my power was out yesterday because I didn't update in the notes who's leading its series, but we have the notes in. Oh, goodness gracious. I realized we didn't record after game one because it had started like that night. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Where do we even... First off, I think a story, even though the series is 1-1, they both started the same way, and that was a crappy start for the Oilers, which has been a problem a lot of this year, even once Woodcroft took over. And Mike Smith has not been great, especially in game one, even though, you know what, apparently in game one, Mike Smith allowed the least amount of goals of any goalie who played.
Yeah, it's insane to think that because he only let in 3 goals and then was thrown right into the friggin' bench.
Mm-hmm. Before we get too much into the game itself, Mike, is there a problem with Brady Tkachuk being a good brother? Because who tweeted that where they mentioned it's weird to see the captain of another NHL team, and he never even mentioned the fact that the Tkachuks are brothers?
Yeah, they're brothers that have only been documented as being very close brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're brothers that care about each other and had the same upbringing, and now they're both in the NHL. They're very they're each other's best friend. What do you think the Hughes brothers are? Like,
remember when who was the youngest one again? When Luke got drafted and the video of Jack losing it.
Yeah, these guys love each other, dude. What the hell do you mean don't support your brother? And what the heck? He got a payday out of it. You think guy gets signed by Budweiser for having a good time? I was surprised because it was Bud Light that he was drinking, but at first, but I mean, either or, man, like the hell, you're getting your bag for having a good time with watching your brother with your NHL legend of a father.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, so sorry. So that also means that Tkachuk, Keith Tkachuk shouldn't have been at the game because he was a Blue and everything else he was. So he shouldn't have been supporting his son in Calgary either, right? Idiots.
I agree with that. As someone with a brother, I'll tell you.
Exactly.
It was weird to me that people didn't get why you would go and support them. I didn't get that.
Like, I get he represents the Senators, but like the Senators aren't in the playoffs. What do you think he's going to root for? He's going to root for his brother.
And not to mention the Tkachuk unit, as you mentioned, is extremely tight-knit. It was that Matthew Tkachuk quote, you do with one of us, you deal with all of us. Their sister's there too, who I believe is like nasty at lacrosse.
Yeah. And then obviously Big Papa Keith Tkachuk. Yeah, they're a close-knit family. I mean, they even mentioned it when Brady was going into his negotiations. Even Matthew was involved in Brady's negotiations. So
32 Soft interview, when he mentioned it.
Yeah. So
and guess what? When Matthew's up this summer, I'm sure we're going to get Brady's reaction to it. What was more brutal in that game, Mike? The goaltending or the state of Matthew Tkachuk's mouth guard? Because that thing looked mangled.
Yeah, well, that's because Matthew. I think Matthew. These NHL guys get new everything. He's probably like guys like JVR, Patrick Kane, all these guys that are chewing on their mouth guards all game. They're probably getting a new mouth guard every game.
Oh yeah,
I think because it's the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think because it's the playoffs, they're so hesitant to change anything up. I genuinely think Tkachuk is playing with the same mouth guard since game one.
I wouldn't be shocked by that. Oh God, no, not at all. It wasn't the camera was not as focused on it, but that was like after that game, I just kind of thought to myself, man, that poor thing, because it legit it was unrecognizable. It was like a piece of plastic that was chewed on by the dog. It's like
I don't know how it fits in your mouth after.
It's like the state of a towel after Fat Tupson gets all giant rip in the middle of it. There's fabric everywhere, but then you can't make. Hey, just a naughty dog. I
will tell you that the goaltending was way worse.
It was. You see that thing of Markstrom said after the 6th goal, "I've locked it down, boys."
Yeah.
Will sent that to me and was like, so 6 is the benchmark. Good to know. What's going on here?
That's exactly what I was saying all game too. The only thing I said all game is just what is happening. Like, what is this?
Markstrom just seems to be, and this was like Markstrom was giving a real push for the Vezina Trophy at points this year. Like, I think he led the league in shutouts.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, he is just awful. He is Mike Smith levels of bad against the Edmonton Oilers. And what doesn't help, on top of that, is when Connor McDavid is just putting on a show.
McDavid pulled this one goal in game one where he just took it to the net, pivoted a little, dragged it back, and just snuck it right through, I think either through the 5-hole or just past his pad on the right side. Either way, it was just, he just slid it across the ice into the net. And it was just, A, it was McDavid magic, and B, if it wasn't McDavid magic, it's something Markstrom needs to save. That's the thing. All these goals, all these goals you've had to save.
Mike, the discourse, I'm surprised it's taken us this long, but we're going to get a little Stephen A-ish here, okay? The discussion earlier this year, which, guess what, the three of us normally on the show had, about saying that Matthews was better than McDavid, was blasphemous, Max Kellerman. I'm ashamed. McDavid has just, not only did he step up in that game 7 against the Kings, but this, game 2 was not, again, great goaltending overall. But
it was still the McDavid show.
It was. He made Nikita Zadorov look like a complete fool on that goal, too, where he just sort of he almost, I don't know how to describe it, but he just sort of bounced off the Zadorov.
Yeah, and also his it's very Sidney Crosby-esque.
Yes.
How he took the puck behind the net and how strong he is. He may not be as thick and chunky as Crosby is. He might not have the tree trunks that Sidney Crosby has for legs, but he's very, very balanced on his edges. And he took that to the house when he just gave that one-handed flick over to, I think it was Evander Kane for that goal. And dude, he's nasty. He had the quietest 123 point season.
Yes, he did. He did. Donald asked me, he's like, what's the gap with Matthews and McDavid? And I said, that 60-goal year that Matthews just had, very much, it closed the gap, right? Mm-hmm. But I think this playoffs, McDavid is widening it again. Because the man is just, it's a shame. This is the second time that he's been past the second time he's made the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And, listen, I don't want to cheer for Evander Kane. I don't want to do it. So what you do in the case of the Oilers is you cheer for, first off, Zach Hyman, because he's a great guy, right?
Yeah.
You cheer for Draisaitl, who's playing through something right now, but still looks incredible. And you cheer for the fact that we're getting to watch the best player in the world play past April, because that's the way it should be every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, McDavid is just an absolute treat to hockey fans everywhere. And let me tell you, I was waiting for this all game. I'm so happy to see some bad blood between Kane and Tkachuk, because that is exactly what I was waiting for. That's what my mouth was salivating for when I saw that we're getting a Battle of Alberta.
do you see the video of I think it was a Calgary fan climbed like and threw a $10 bill over the Edmonton bench?
I forgot if it was a 10 or a 5.
I think it was a 10.
I'm pretty sure it was a 5.
Was it?
Because
he wouldn't even give him a 10. That's a shame.
So the guy on the on the bench guys.
Yes.
Yeah, they go and comment on the video. They're like, boys, take the $5. That's 2 double doubles in a donut from Tim's.
That's a very good point. You gotta save it because they raised the price of donuts too. It was insane. Like cookies are like $1.30 now. It's like, what are we doing here?
Oh, so does that mean donuts aren't 99 cents anymore?
Yeah, I think they were raised too, just over $1, which is just criminal when you think about it. Another story, because Mike, if you're listening to this and you think I wouldn't mention Chris Lee dropping the ball, you'd be mistaken. What was a mess about this game is, beside the McDavid show, was the officiating was suboptimal, to say the least. There were 2 goals in this game. First off, there were the 2 disallowed goals for the Oilers. I thought they got gypped on both. The goaltender interference too, I thought was very weak. Now there was also a Calgary goal that called back, and so one of the Edmonton goals and then that Calgary goal were both a result of Chris Lee not being in position to see the fact that the puck was loose on both goals. I'm going to
interrupt you for 2 seconds.
Is there news?
We'll get into that series after, but Jordan Binnington will not return during the Colorado series.
Oh, really? Oh, and yes, we will talk about how about after Edmonton. We'll get straight into that because I think him and Mr. Kadri have something going at it. That is unfortunate. You know what? That series has that Sam Girard being out now. That is a lot going on right now. That's a real shame because he's playing really well. But anyway, there's a lot to get to with Binnington later. But Jesus, but Chris Lee, he sucks.
I mean, for example, like that one goal, he was right to wave off Edmonton's potential second goal because he blew the whistle down, but he was wrong to blow the whistle that early. The puck was still loose.
He did that. He has a history of early whistles too. He did it a lot with Montreal last year.
With Vegas in Montreal.
Listen. When Rod McLean calls out the goaltending on the intermission, that's when you know it's bad. Like, and Craig Simpson, I remember last year he was getting really mad at Chris Lee on commentary. He was very subtly doing it during the broadcast too. So listen, I don't like him. I don't think unless you're a Flyers fan, I don't think you like Chris Lee.
No, I like Chris Lee.
I listen, Montreal beat Vegas despite everything he tried. He's not a good ref.
Despite the fact that he didn't give Pietrangelo a penalty for like socking Suzuki.
Yeah, and then it's awful. Or when Corey Perry got cut up and he didn't call it, but they still scored, but they had to clean the blood off the ice. Great picture, by the way, of Perry celebrating afterwards when he's like bleeding still. Great picture. I miss him so much. He's been so good at Tampa. It's sickening. I was going to say, so that, by the way, the Oilers goal where he blew the puck, the play down quickly, he didn't go to the bench to talk to Jay Woodcroft. He sent one of the other officials, which I thought was cowardly, by the way.
Yeah.
That's when you know you've messed up.
Yeah.
That's awful. Anything else on Battle of Alberta, or do you want to go to St. Louis, Colorado? St. Louis, Colorado.
Nothing other than it's sensational, and I'm excited for Game 3. Also, hey, can't forget the fact that Calgary has not won a Game 2 since 2004.
I did not know that.
It was either, let me see, Calgary Game 2 stat. Calgary Game 2 stat 2004.
Was it 04 when they lost in the finals? Will doesn't want to talk about it.
No. I'm trying to find this. Yeah, in the Brad Treliving era, the Flames have lost every Game 2 of every playoff best-of-7 series they've played in.
I didn't know that. That's cursed, if anything. That's very, very cursed. Okay, so Jordan Binnington is out. Okay, Mike, you know how much I love the Colorado Avalanche. Mm-hmm. Since I was a child, they have been my second team because I am a Habs fan. I was raised to respect goaltenders. So that Patrick Waugh connection is there, and I love the Colorado Avalanche. So I've been on the bandwagon much longer than everyone else. Mm-hmm. So because I lost power, I didn't get to watch Game 3, and I'm really upset about it. But as you said,
I didn't get to watch past like the halfway mark, like towards the end of the second, but I did catch like the important stuff to start the game.
So, from what I understand, a buddy of mine said that even when Binnington was in net, it wasn't looking great for St. Louis. But Binnington gets hurt, and there's a bit of a collision where I do think Kadri could have done a bit more. I've seen more egregious contact between player and that, but I think Kadri could have done more, but I don't think it was egregious. Now, obviously, I've just said that in my remarks earlier about Binnington playing well. I don't like Jordan Binnington. Let's just get that straight before we keep going here. I don't want anyone thinking I'm on his side. So the Avs win the game. They take the series lead after a game 2 where they just got their lunch stolen. I thought, like, Craig Berube outcoached Jared Bednar. It was just a perfectly executed game plan by the Blues, I thought. So then you go to this game, and afterwards, Nazem Kadri is doing an interview with the TNT panel, which, by the way, I love that it's a TNT thing. That just, it feels like something you'd see in the NBA. And Kadri he's answering a question. They're showing some game footage, and he sort of hesitates for a second. And he points out that he thinks Jordan Binnington has just thrown a water bottle at him. And that was confirmed.
Yeah.
Now, people have mentioned that Jordan Binnington has had some problematic tweets in the past. I remember seeing something like that, but I couldn't find them this morning. Now, besides that, because I couldn't find them, I don't want to speak too much to that because I think it would be negligent of me. But we know for a fact, at least, that Jordan Binnington is fake tough. This isn't the first time he's sort of that game against the Sharks where he went out his way to try and get in everyone's face. And even Devin Dubnyk came out to him and said, "What do you think, you idiot?" The guy who thought he should have won the Calder over Elias Pettersson. A guy who lost his job to Billy Husso this year and got it back. But Jordan Binnington has a reputation for, I think, being a bit of a sore loser in this point. I get being upset that you're hurt, and now he's done for the series, as you say, from Elliot Freeman on Twitter. And I'd be upset too, but I just think you're a bit of a loser for throwing a water bottle at a guy. I think that's kind of gutless, to be honest.
I do like Jordan Binnington. I do. He's a hothead. Don't get me wrong, but he also opened up a lot about kind of how he had to keep going up the ladder and how his career has been a lot of snakes and ladders to get up there eventually in that miraculous cup run. At least in his interview with Chicklets, it was great. He's a very confident guy. So when he doesn't get his way, he gets angry. Like when Jordan Binnington gets mad, he just has like these crazy, like freak out, just like wires crossed, spaz out moments. But also goalies are psychos. So, I mean, that's kind of a given. The whole water bottle thing, it's pretty gutless. I won't lie. If it was back in the day, I'd see it. Actually, I think way worse happened back in older hockey days. But
oh yeah,
he's a very emotional player. I don't think that excuses his behavior and his outbursts when things happen. But he's a very emotional player, and there's no doubt when he's injured like that, he kind of can tell. You can tell when you have an injury like that. You can tell. We'll understand what injury it is later, but if your knee or a ligament or something is torn, you feel that and immediately you're done for a series. Or if something is broken on your body and you're done for the series, know you're done. I think he knew he was done from the moment he stepped off the ice. So if he threw that water bottle, pretty gutless, I won't lie, but he's an emotional guy. And I do feel bad because I like Jordan Binnington.
Yeah.
It sucked that he started sucking and lost his job eventually to Billy Husso, who's been pretty good in his own right.
Yeah.
Gutless water bottle throw. I don't think it's that terrible. It kind of spices up this stuff a bit because Lord knows Kadri likes to spice it up.
So I do feel for Kadri a bit too, just because I can only imagine what people say to Naz if that was him who did it. because of his history. And, Kadri, I want to say this is the longest he's been in the playoff without getting suspended. Which
because it happened. Yeah. It happened every time.
So I don't know if this is an attempt Binner trying to get into his head, because I think earlier in the first round, people were pointing out that maybe Nashville were trying to goad Kadri into doing something dumb. And obviously, there's history between these two teams. I want to say there was a game this year, or it may have been the playoffs last year, when Binnington took a shot at Kadri with a stick. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there was the series between these two teams last year where the Avs swept St. Louis, and Kadri brained Justin Falk, which was deserved to get suspended. But I just feel like I
was going to say something funny, but I'm not.
Okay. All right. Is it bad? Should we?
No, it was. I don't know if you remember. I remember seeing some media outlet or something post that that the suspension was racially motivated on Kadri last year. But anyways,
listen. I really hope that this isn't a race thing with Binnington. I want to say, based off his history in the NHL, it's more than him just being a hot-headed idiot.
Oh yeah, no, it's not a race thing. It's just him being psycho.
Wires
crossed, emotion.
Yeah, but I still feel for Kadri. There was something else I was going to say, but it slipped my mind here.
I will say that on the play, I will give Kadri a little bit of credit. I don't think he could have gotten out of the way because he already got pushed by, I don't know who 43 is. I don't know who 43 is, but he was already fallen. He got his shoulder right into Kadri as Kadri was about to make the shift in his body to get out of the way. Because I don't think Kadri would have intentionally just barreled Jordan Binnington.
No,
because then there would be a reason for him to get suspended again, and this time it'd be for way longer because it's Kadri's history. But ironically enough, Justin Falk was right in the play as well. But
yeah, Kadri is, that hit on Justin Falk was by itself suspendable, by itself, and he was a repeat offender. It is they said the same thing about Ryan Reeves, but Ryan Reeves kneed a guy and drew blood on the ice in the playoff. Remember that?
Yep.
And then people forget that Tom Wilson has had this. I want to say he's had the longest suspension we've seen since Rafi Torres got half a year. So, listen, there's a lot wrong with player safety, but at the same time, you got to realize Subban didn't get any discipline for what he did to Sammy Blais. So I don't think there's a race thing with them either. I get why people would think it because of everything that's happened the past couple of years. But I personally, and maybe there's a bit of you're a white dude saying it, and I understand that people think that, but I just don't see it. I like Kadri. I like him. Wouldn't hate if Montreal signed. Probably not because the cap is just too insane for them right now. But beside that, the Abs, I wish I knew how they played, but I didn't get to watch. Apparently, Lehkonen had a great game. He had the game winner, so I'm really upset I missed that. But a great, another sort of great mention acquisition by Joe Sakic. So they got two players like that. Apparently, Valery Nichushkin is very much like the Finnish, because he's Russian.
He's Russian.
The Russian version of Lehkonen, or Lehkonen is the Finnish version of Nichushkin. And I think, what is it? It's Landeskog, Kadri, Lehkonen is online sometimes, which just screams, I hate to play against that. I guess going to game 4, I just hope it doesn't get too silly, but it feels like there's something coming.
Yeah, especially after what's his face. It was just a bloodshed game all around. I mean, you have Binnington who's out after getting plowed there. You have Barbashev murdering Sam Girard behind the net. You don't know what his status is, but he definitely looks like he has a concussion.
Mm-hmm.
And
and again, Sam Girard's gone with a broken sternum. You know what? He was getting a lot of grief in the regular season. And again, numbers were indicating he wasn't playing very, very well. But I thought in the playoffs, he's playing some great hockey. And a broken sternum is just...
Oh, okay. I didn't know he suffered a broken sternum. So he's done for the year then. He's done.
Yeah, they've already confirmed they confirmed it last night, which, that quickly to determine something in the playoffs is just...
Yeah.
just saying broken sternum makes you.
I remember seeing he was
cringe.
brought. I remember seeing that he was sent to the hospital and immediately, and I'm like, okay, yeah. So
That's unfortunate. Yeah, again, playoffs is just when someone goes down and goes somewhere in the playoff, you just know that is something bad. Something I wanted to mention that was a little lighthearted. Then it has to do with Sam Girard, not the injury. We wish him the best because if you've listened, you know I love Sam Girard. When he was available, or it was reported he was available, I was like, Bergevin, go get him. Obviously, look what's happened then. Bergevin's not even in Montreal anymore. But I wanted to ask you something, and I tagged you, Christopoulos, and Baldwin on this on Twitter. Guys we've all had on the show before. Sam Girard's tape job. I have never seen that before.
that is so weird, man.
Could you explain it, please?
I mean, the thing is, what Sam Girard is doing is like, it's an incomplete candy cane, because what you do when you're taping your stick is that what he has done is he's twirled up his roll of tape so that it's like thicker, but like spindlier. And then he tapes it around his stick. So what you usually do is that you usually use that for, it's usually what goes towards the top of your stick, towards the butt. And you start by doing however thick you want your butt, get your laughs out. And you take, you roll the tape up, you spin it, and you kind of just like swirl it down and down and down to about how long you want the grip of your stick to be. So some people are crazy and they don't like any grip on their stick, and they just like a small butt at the end of it, like a small piece of tape. Some people like a long grip, like I do. I have, like, for example, my grip would be like here to like here. It's pretty long. But
what's that, like 10 inches or something? Just for people who aren't.
You know what? Give me 2 seconds. Let me just grab my stick. It's right there.
As he does that, I'll just say it's interesting that this series, like Girard, weird stick, like tape job. Ryan O'Reilly has that very famous hook on his stick blade, which is weird. But now here's Mike. He's back.
So what Sam Girard does is basically, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the tape, you're going to roll it, and then you're going to go down and down and down and down.
Yeah.
And then you're going to cut it, put the tape right back to normal as like a sheet of tape. Yeah. And then you're going to go over that. Yeah. And that is how you create grip on your stick. So what Sam Girard has done is just so weird, because he has not done that. He's just done like the preliminary part of it where you just put the rolls on, not where you finish it off with the actual grip part of it. Like at this point, honestly, it's like he doesn't want to take his glove off, because it's the stickiest part of the stick when you're rolling up. That's what it is. Yeah. It's like he doesn't want his glove to get off of his stick by doing that effectively.
Have you ever seen The Walking Dead?
Bits and pieces.
Have you seen Negan's bat? How it has the barbed wire over the top of it?
Yes.
That's what Sam Girard's stick reminds me of. It looks like he's got barbed wire. I thought it looked pretty neat, but I think you called it dust. Will and Christopoulos, Will and Will really also we're shocked to see it. I had never seen it before, and while you were gone, I mentioned we got Sam Girard's weird tape job, and we also have. I love anytime I mention Ryan O'Reilly, I love mentioning his stick and how his blade is hooked.
It's an L.
How is it legal?
I don't understand. I think they'll make it illegal once he retires.
Hopefully. Okay, where else can we look here to finish off the playoff stuff? Because then we can quickly check on some other news around the league. The Battle of Florida is Tampa's advantage 2-0 right now, and those were both in the Panthers arena. Now, first off, Mike, before we go into the raw details here, as I quote the great Stephen A. Smith in round one, I said that the APB needed to be out for Nikita Kucherov. But that pass to Ross Colton in game one, it was sensational. And his play just overall in the first sort of few games of this series means Kucherov is off the hook. Whatever he's dealing with him, he was dealing with in round one. Apparently he was sick. It seems to be gone. Barkov, though, it's your turn. Where are the police? Where's the APB out for him? Go find him. Face on side of the milk carton. He's hiding with Michael Irving after a Cowboys loss. Where is Alexander Barkov? Where is he? Disappeared with their scoring touch on the power play. I think it's 0 for 23 now. It's not great. It's not great, Mike.
No offense. The man can't play.
He cannot play the game of basketball. He cannot commit one play.
Kwame Brown.
Small hands.
He's got small hands. He can't defend.
No disrespect, but he's a bona fide scrub. James Harden. I knew we were going to get to this point. But yeah. Anyway. So game 2, we can focus on that. I guess we talked about game 1 last episode then. Okay. Interesting.
Ours need to step up though. I will say, and I said it before, they greatly underperformed in the first round. They greatly underperformed.
They did, yes.
I mean, you had some guys rise to the occasion, like Duclair, I think.
Verhaeghe.
Carter Verhaeghe is like when he went down with injury, like, whoa, the fact that I didn't know how much he actually did contribute to the team. Huberdeau definitely was a lot more invisible in that first round series. He had that nice assist in the first game, but you have one of the most complete rosters in the National Hockey League. Like, you need to step up. I understand it's Tampa. I understand it's the 2-time Stanley Cup champions, but that 2-time Stanley Cup champion team also just went toe to toe with the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're tired. That was a bloody series, and now they're working Florida.
So before we go too much on Tampa, because they had a carousel of guys leave and come back and get hurt in game 2. It was but just go to Florida for a second, because in game 2, I thought they were really good. I thought that they had controlled that game for most of it and stopped playing for an instant. And boom, there it is. Kucherov, great play. Ross Colton, the guy who got that Stanley Cup game-winning goal last year. Who needs Yanni Gourde? Because you got Ross Colton back. It's so unfortunate to see, because that is just, it is the Panther. Sorry, as you say, it's Tampa Bay. There is no team in the league that quite like them who you can give a step to. Colorado, we see, is maybe sort of the odds-on favorite to win the Cup. But it's just, they just don't have the pedigree and experience that Tampa have. And, Mike, I can't think of a game that was a better example of a Cup-winning team than game 2 with Tampa Bay. A showcase of what it is to win, because Corey Perry in warm-up gets cut up because he shoots a puck, it goes off the bar and hits him in the face, which I thought was pretty funny. But he comes back. Stamkos left, came back, but as he was coming back to the game, Brendan Hagel went. But I don't think he ever came back, and I don't think he was in their last practice.
Hagel, who is taking warm-up for Tampa Bay right now, actually, as we speak.
Because that starts in like 35 minutes. So he might be coming back overall. Sarnik got bled, pushed it, hit into another bench. He was still playing great. All this on top of a way that Braden Point is still out, and Tampa still found a way to win. If that is not championship pedigree, and Vasilevsky's playing really well too, but just credit to the skaters here.
Credit to the coaching staff. Credit to everybody. It's
incredible to look at. I'm bitter at this team for last year, obviously, but I cannot help but respect them. I can't.
Me neither. I mean, Tampa Bay's been doing this for a long time. It seemed like it seemed like they've had this core together for such a long time, and they just couldn't burst through the hump.
Mm-hmm.
Then they finally did and won 2 cups back to back, and now they are. You know what? They're in a very good position to win a third one.
So I'm just thinking about it. Carolina is weird because apparently Freddie Anderson made the trip, but it's still, I don't know if I can see them beating Tampa. No. Maybe we see the state of Tampa's roster afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And in the West, the Flames quite haven't been the studs we thought they were. And Colorado still to get through St. Louis, but St.
Louis is going to be Colorado's ultimate test on playoffs.
Oh, yeah, because even if I still like Colorado a lot more versus Calgary and everything. I think Daryl Sutter likes Colorado more against Calgary considering his quotes this year. But if it's, I think whoever was coming out of the Atlantic this year, I think was going to have a sort of pretty good path to try and make a real run. It's just, I think it was really in the Metro because we didn't know what Tristan Jarry's health was, and I should have thought about that when I made my bracket. Losers.
Should have.
Went 4 for 8, by the way. Went 50% in my bracket for the first round. I'm like, Wayne, perfect. I love Wayne. But, it's really just Carolina's the other test there. And then we'll see. And I don't think Carolina have really been showstoppers. I think they had some moments of weakness against Boston. And they haven't been – Game 2 was better, but Game 1 against New York was sort of disappointing. So the East is Tampa's for the taking, really. I think it is. But I've been wrong about many things in these playoffs, so we'll see. But listen, Florida, can you score on the power play so my good friend Alex Baumgartner can just not have to talk about it anymore, the poor guy? Anyway, that's everything for the playoffs. So we have 3 games today because Tampa are playing back-to-back because Amalie Arena was apparently booked by a man I've never heard of, which is a shame.
Hey.
I've never heard of the man. What's his name again? Joe Smith? No, it's not that. It's something like
Kane Brown.
Kane Brown, never heard of him.
Kane Brown.
So there are 3 big names for UFAs in Pittsburgh. Brian Rust, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang. One of them is taken care of. The comparable for this contract, by the way, I looked at was like it was Zach Hyman and I can't remember Blake Coleman were the comparables for this. From $3.5 million, Brian Rust, 6-year extension, $5.1 million AAV. There's some spare change after that. Worth just under $31 million. I mean, what always helps with Brian Rust is you can see him up and down the lineup. Swiss Army knife type player. What does this mean? I don't think either of us have a problem with the contract. Maybe the last few years might be a little tough, but first off, happy the guy earned it because that guy's been a warrior. But what does it mean for Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin?
One or both of them are gone.
If you had to guess, is Evgeny Malkin coming back?
Oh,
or is it
Anders Malkin is gone. I'd say Letang comes back. If Letang doesn't retire because of how many injuries he's faced, he's coming. It's similar, maybe not to the same caliber. I know, you know what? Letang has had a pretty legendary career himself, but Letang is similar in this sense to Patrice Bergeron. He's either coming back or he's retiring. There's to me, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's either a Pittsburgh Penguin or he is part of the NHL Alumni Association. Whereas Evgeny Malkin, his body's been broken down just as well, but he still wants to keep playing for at least like 3 years or something like that.
Yeah. And probably, you know what? In the perfect world, you want all of them to retire. But, I think Pittsburgh have to be careful that they don't want to make the Brent Seabrook mistake and just have that contract to really bone them in the future. Listen, Sid's going to retire there, which is the big one. But
until he becomes a Colorado Avalanche to join Nate Dogg.
No, he's going to come. No, he's coming to Montreal so he can play for his childhood team. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I can help. Imagine Suzuki, Crosby, and Wright. Do you know what? I'm not going to ask you this because I'm not going to put you on the spot. But next episode, I want to have a discussion with the guys about Shane Wright because there is a certain former scout for the Habs who has been ripping Shane Wright and has only been going after Juraj Slafkovsky, and it's very annoying. They're taking Wright. Deal with it.
Of course they are. He's the best player in the series in the draft.
He is. Oh,
and Bergevin is not the GM anymore, so he's not going to draft positionally.
I can't even if they go positionally, it's still Shane Wright. Just go and take Simon Nemec because they need a right-handed D. Oh, could you imagine? To finish up, well, 2 quick things. First off, I might get the name wrong here. First woman ever drafted in the WHL. Chloe Primerano? Couldn't get
Primerano.
Primerano?
Yeah.
Primerano? That sounds like you would have gotten it right. Fair enough. The comments were just sort of like what you'd expect from Twitter comments, but that's a hell of an accomplishment. And obviously we saw it with, I can't remember her name, but the female who played goaltender in the QMJHL this year too. Obviously Marie-Philippe Poulin was offered to play in the ECHL, declined it because she's that big of a deal. I freaking love it. A good year for women's hockey when you put Chloe into the mix here too. Just a great story. And I love that it was by the Vancouver Giants, who are my favorite WHL team, only because of Mr. Brendan Gallagher.
I will say, though, it's great. It's great that she made it. Mm-hmm. A lot of media outlets, though, that don't know sports that well have got to stop sensationalizing, though, because you don't want to put all this pressure on this girl, because people keep saying, like, for example, CBC goes, Chloe Primarano will be lacing up to play defense for the Vancouver Giants. No, she's not yet. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it's great that she got drafted, but don't put so much expectation on someone who's drafted 268th overall in the 13th round. Mm-hmm. It's I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but at the same time too, you don't want to put all this expectation, because she's definitely the most public of this draft because of the fact that she's the first female to do it. And
Hockey Night in Canada interview.
Yeah, give her, all credit is due. She worked very hard for this. Mm-hmm. But don't put the crazy expectation on her that she has to be suiting up for the Vancouver Giants next year, or in a couple of years. Give her some time. People, all these outlets that don't know sports are just yeah, she's going to be a Vancouver Giant next year. It's going to be a tough path to get there. Mm-hmm. But it was a tough path to get drafted. I have faith in her, but don't put so much expectation on the poor girl.
Mm-hmm. Celebrate the accomplishment. Take it one day at a time. As exactly. She will. I saw that she said, "Yeah, I style my game after Duncan Keith," and I'm like, I don't want to play against you then.
Interesting.
That sounds like you're. It's just because he is a noted. That's not against her. That is, if you don't know, Duncan Keith's a rat bastard to play against.
Yeah.
But hey, pretty good defenseman. Not a great person, but great defenseman. I lost it when he scored in that game. I texted Will. I'm like, why'd it have to be Duncan Keith? Another guy on the Oilers. Man, I wish McDavid had anyone else to play for. Okay, there were two little snippets that I had put on. So this was, I forgot to mention this during the Battle of Alberta part. But in game one, the expected goals margin for the Oilers was 1.33. They scored 5. The Flames 4.2. At the time, it was 6. Obviously, it went up to 9, but that was at one point during the game. So they were showing 6-5 there. Obviously, it ended up going 9-6, but that's how bad the goaltending was. Something else quickly here. No, that is a Pokemon screenshot I took. Nothing to do with this, Adam. What are you doing? Okay, so the Dallas Stars are going to look. This is what we'll finish off with here, Mike. The Dallas Stars are going to look very different next year. Rick Bowness has stepped away from the team. By the way, I like that he got to do that and he wasn't fired, quote unquote. Same with John Tortorella. I think those guys deserved it. So this is from
If I'm them, I want to get fired. I want to get my money.
Yeah, but I think at least Bonus was up.
Yeah, Bonus was up. You're right.
So this is from Saad Yusuf of The Athletic, covers the Stars. Sources say that Jim Nill is expected to lead the search for the next Stars head coach. It will be Nill's 5th coaching hire in Dallas since he became GM in 2013. Lindy Ruff, Ken Hitchcock, Jim Montgomery, and Rick Bowness. Also, by the way, interesting to note that Jim Nill is in the final year of his contract as well. Next year, technically. I forgot. We're in that weird point. Next season is his last. So the assistant coaches won't be returning either. I look a lot of those coaches, and first off, I think, man, it's. I would like to see if Jim Montgomery gets another look there, because I have a lot of time and respect for a guy who got help, and I think he's in St. Louis right now as an assistant. And they were mentioning when Dom Ducharme got fired that maybe because he's from Montreal, if he was going to go in Montreal, hire him. Where's the St. Louis extension, by the way? But I also look at guys like Hitchcock, and I see Lindy Ruff, and I'm like, maybe they go for a younger, more forward-thinking head coach for this next group. One that isn't going to hate a player like Denis Gurianov. Maybe. Please.
Yeah, I mean, Rick Bowness did some pretty good things with the Dallas Stars. He took them to the final, even though they had no business getting to the final. First off, the first thing is, Bonus is like what, 67 years old. So retirement is also always on the table if you take a job in media or something like that. But if that's it for him, hell of a career.
Before you keep going, I believe with his time as an assistant coach, I think he's coached the most games in NHL history.
Wouldn't be surprised. I don't know where they go. The Stars are an interesting team under interesting management. I mean, you're right. It's either they hire a dinosaur or they hire someone very young. Who that someone very young is, I do not know. But other than that, obviously they're going to put a bid in for Barry Trotz. Somebody that might be a good coach for them that I'm thinking would coach the Red Wings next year, though, is Gerard Gallant.
Oh, Dan.
I'm never going to let Dan live that down.
No.
I don't know. I really don't know with this one. Not just for the fact that it's not just about which coaches are available, as much as it's which coaches fit the mound of a team that's the Stars, potentially going through another rebuild because their core is aging, their window is closing. How does this impact things like John Klingberg, his negotiation/trade? There's a lot of questions. I couldn't really give you a genuine suggestion or prediction of a coach other than everyone's salivating to get Barry Trotz. That's about it.
If I'm Dallas, by the way, I want to know what's going on with Jim Nill first. Because if we're going to get a new GM next year, a new vision, why am I wasting the money and contract on the coach now who the next GM may not even like? We kind of saw that with Boudreau this year. We know he's back next season, but how that's going to look then?
Oh, that's going to be very interesting. There's no indication that GM and coach like each other there.
So that's the question I have looking at everything like that. And Mike, do you remember where Jim Nill previously worked before his time in Dallas?
Detroit.
Yeah. So, and do you remember who the head coach was there?
Yep. No, that's not going to happen.
Michael Babcock. I don't know, man. Someone's going to do it. Someone's going to do it. Someone's going to be dumb enough to hire him. We know teams are dumb enough that they've been asking about Joe Quenneville. Someone's going to be dumb enough to do it. I can promise you that.
Fair enough.
All right. I do believe that's it. I'm just quickly checking through my phone to make sure I have everything that we've talked about. My friend telling me to go watch House. I think so. Is it me or do the Rangers look like they're not getting to the net easily? That was something I wanted to mention. But some One Piece stuff I screenshotted. Should this have counted for the Flames? Don't care. Okay, well, Mike, that's everything. Funny enough.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you for being here, by the way.
Thank you. Same time next week, obviously, because Alex and Dan are gone.
Yeah, we'd like to thank them for their service. Their severance packages are in the mail. Don't expect much because we don't have that much money. And we will see everyone on Wednesday. Sayonara.